Hello everyone, I am Piver, a French 2D artist, and this is my first art video on YouTube. I will try to speak as clearly as possible, so sorry in advance if I mispronounce some words. Today we will see how I went from this sketch to the final illustration. For this piece, I'm drawing my OC, Glove Girl, and I wanted to draw her smoking a cigarette in her bath. I had a good visual image of what I wanted, so I started with a really ugly and messy sketch to try to lay out the idea. The initial sketch was a bit too frontal, the angle was not really interesting, so I scrapped it, and decided to move to a top-down point of view, which will give me more interesting things to draw, more anatomy, a dynamic perspective, and it gives more intimacy with the character. I lay out basic body shapes to get my pose right. I didn't do any thumbnail to prepare this drawing, so as I draw, I'm figuring out how to place elements. I also cropped some parts of the image because it feels too big and it's going to be some empty spaces in the end. Once I'm happy with what I have, I refine the messy sketch with more accurate anatomical indications, so I can see if everything makes sense and if I could get the body pose right. Her name is Glove Girl because she has big red gloves, and I intended to let her gloves on even in the bath, but my girlfriend told me that maybe it was a bit too much, and thinking of it, she was right. Big shiny gloves on the foreground would take too much importance, so I removed them. I redraw the pose a third time with a final line art. It's not an extremely refined line art, because I don't intend to keep much of it. I just want it to be clean and accurate to make the painting part easier. I draw sharp and edgy lines because when painting, it is going to round up the shapes. Having sharp shapes to paint within helps. I didn't want to just draw a naked girl. That's why I made her smoke. It gives a bit more of storytelling and you are really with the character in her intimacy. The line art is ready. I can start the color part. I'm starting by blocking out the major shapes so I can create a mask layer and draw within it. I separate the girl, the water and the background. I'm adding the flat colors and local colors. Those are subject to change during the process. As you can see, I stayed simple with my color scheme. It's just complementary colors, red and green. I'm playing with the opacity of the water and its color to move the hue and value toward a dark greenish blue, so that I can match the rest and give more depth to the bathtub. I'm applying redness to her skin because the bath is hot and it gives more life and variation to the character than an uniform skin color. I'm coloring the line art to a smoother brown color, so it will be easier to hide it with the paint over. I'm done with the local colors. I loosely put some shadows with a multiply layer. Still very messy because I will do a pass over it later. I just wanted to give me indications. I didn't want the shadow to be omnipresent and darken the piece too much. I do some color adjustments before merging all the layers. I can start my paint over. I'm painting on one layer. I will add a few later just in case, but I try to keep it to the minimum. I'm starting with what is behind the character. I'm painting loosely once again to give some texture to the tiles and bathtub. I wanted a vintage feeling for it, you know, the old yellowish tub at your grandma's house. And I also put some light indications on the edge of the bathtub. My initial pass on the background is done, I start painting the character. I'm refining the shadows, so for the contact and occlusion shadows, I put a darker value, and I also put some lighter and more saturated values to give some bouncing light and volume to it. I go back and forth between the background and the character. I'm kind of messy with this piece because I wanted it to be spontaneous. Putting volume on the tiles with a saturated brim and a darker one, then going back to the character, refining shadows, putting some lights to define the anatomical indications I put earlier. My goal here is just to put simple volume to her body. Just adding lighter and darker values of the same tone, very simple. I don't hesitate to scribble where I want something to be to add more texture instead of just applying a layer of color smoothly. I can smooth out the layer by scribbling with another value to keep the texture. For the hair, I try to keep my midtones close to my lighter tones so it doesn't stand out too much. I'm still adding some slight and saturated reflections to it to give a bit more volume, still very simple. At this stage, I'm mostly finished with my big brush strokes. I'm just refining here and there, trying out stuff on the tiles, the leg, and I see what works best. I'm watching the drawing globally, and when I notice something that needs refinement, I'll go paint over it. Just giving the towel some thickness, just some simple values and brushstrokes so it doesn't feel plain and flat. I had to include the gloves in the piece to give some more storytelling. I quickly sketched them on the edge of the bastard, but it was too close to the character, and it will still take too much importance. I decided to put them on the floor, and I tried to figure out the wall at the same time. I wasn't very satisfied, so I removed it, and we will see later. I went very simple for the glove. A rough sketch of the shape, a base color, a dark one, a lighter one, and a darker one, and some shiny bits in the end. I still had some space I wanted to fill. I drew some panties very quickly. I went back to the wall and I was still struggling. In the end, I just decided to crop it. It was way better. I wanted this piece to be sexy but not sexual, so I will hide her pubic area. To hide it, I put a plastic duck. Same easy process, rough lines, flat colors, shadow with a multiply layer, and some specular lights for the plastic effect. Also, I added a bold brown line that I erased a bit to give it the same treatment as the rest of the piece. I'm almost finished with the painting. I just need to put some more details, like the smoke coming out of the cigarette, the one coming out of her mouth. I am also adding her tattoos. You can see that I tried to add some vapor, but it wasn't necessary and hide too much of the painting. I also tried to add some sweat on her face, but it wasn't looking good. I just stayed simple and did some final small tweaks to adjust the colors and luminosity, also increasing a bit the contrast. Et voilà! Thanks if you watched this video, I hope you enjoyed and found it interesting. Don't hesitate if you have any questions that I can answer. And if you want to see more of my art, you can find me on those platforms. Have a good day.